Hari Shishi Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Ju ki jai. Nityalala Vishtam Vishnupar Ashita Rashita Shishimar Bhaktisiddhānta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Shri Gurudev ki jai. Nityalala Vishtam Vishnupar Ashita Rashita Shishimar Bhaktivedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj ki jai. Nityalala Vishtam Vishnupar Ashita Rashita Shishimar Bhaktivedanta Sai Maharaj Shri Prabhupāda ki jai. Nityalala Vishtam Vishnupara Shittarishita Shishmar Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Gosai Maharaj ki jai. Nityalala Vishtam Vishnupara Shittarishita Shishmar Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Gosai Prabhupāda ki jai. Nityalala Vishta Maha Bhagavat Shilabor Kishodas Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nityalala Vishta Shiva Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nityalala Vishta Vaishnava Shri Rupanugapuriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatt Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patadasa Gunath Shar Gosai Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Namachay Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Bhaja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Avishta Padatta Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kunda ki jai. Shri Yamuna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yoga Maya ki jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Jai Shri Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī Gosvāmī Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī Thakur ki jai. Tadiya Shubha Tirubhav Titi ki jai. Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vai. Jai Shri Chaturmasya Vrat ki jai. Vrat Palan Kari Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari. Hare Krishna. Pranams everybody. Let's see who's here. Haribol, Krishna Mai Didi, Nri Hari Prabhu and Bhavatarani Mataji, Anari Krishna Prabhu, Ashray Prabhu, and Shivas. Haribol. And let's see on YouTube and Facebook, Vidya Lalasa Didi, Vrinda Didi, and I see 6 devotees there on YouTube. Pranams to all of you. All right, so we are joined again with Shivas. He's been working on these this whole section that's going to be included in Prabandha Panchakam by my Śrīla Gurudev. And so he's been absorbed on the topic of Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī. And I haven't read any of it. I don't actually know that much about it. So Shivas will give us, I guess, I'm not so clear what the program will be, but I think there's an article by like an introduction by Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur Prabhupāda, which we'll go through. And I'm not sure if Shivas has anything else, like if he can give us a synopsis, or I think in the article there's already a synopsis on the topic, right?
Yeah.
And okay. And then if there's time afterwards, then I thought maybe we could read from Srila Bhakti Vallabha Tirtha Goswami Maharaj's book, Śrī Caitanya and His Associates. If there's time. If there's not, if it gets late, then we can just end there. And then also, I think it'd be nice to end with singing a famous kirtan by Śrīla Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī Thakur. It's Vasatu Mano Mama Madana Gopale.
You're working on translating that, right?
Well, I did like the first couple verses, but then I realized, hey, I don't know Sanskrit. What am I doing? And I didn't have any Bengali translation to work off of, so I now sent it to a devotee, Ujjwala. He's now looking at it.
Okay.
All right. So, but I do have the Rays of the Harmonist translation. It was just the Rays of the Harmonist translation is a bit wordy, and I wanted to try to condense it. All right. Okay, I guess I'll just hand it over to you.
Okay, and you have the document, or I should share it as I read.
Oh yeah, I have the document. Okay, yeah, I will open that up. 1 second. What happened to it? I had it before. Sorry, guys, just 1 second. Just going back into the chat. I mean, I know I downloaded it, but I don't see it in the downloads for some reason. Oh, I think I already got it open. Okay. Sorry, guys. There it is. Okay, so whenever you're ready.
Okay, so what we'll be reading first is, I think it's on page 5, the end of page 5. It's Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur's introduction to Caitanya-candrāmṛta, and he gives a full overview of Prabodhānanda Sarasvati's life, his glories, his writings, and some of the controversy associated with him. So, in early 1433, Shakabda. Did you find it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in early 1433 Shakabda, Śrī Krishna Caitanya Mahaprabhu distributed his mercy to the devotees on the pretext of a pilgrimage of South India, starting from Niladri, Puri, in Utkal Pradesh, Odisha. He first traveled to the Godavari Sangam, Godavari Delta, and then visited many holy places in the region of Madras, modern-day Chennai. On the Shukla Ekadashi of Ashar month, he arrived in Sriranga Kshetra. The period of Chaturmasya had begun. Seeing this, Bhagavan Caitanya-candrāmṛta made a vow to stay in Sriranga Kshetra for 4 months. That place is the abode of the Sri Sampradāyi Vaishnavas. In South Indian villages, the Smarta Brahmanas tend to dislike living among the Paramarthik Vaishnavas, devotees whose conception of the ultimate goal and truth of life transcends ritualism and orthodoxy. So there's this separation between the orthodox Smartas and the more Paramarthik Vaishnavas. At that time, Sriranga was a Tīrtha frequented only by Sri Vaishnavas. That is why Sriman Mahaprabhu chose to spend 4 months there, surrounded by Vaishnavas who were following the proper principles of devotion to Vishnu. Sriman Mahaprabhu was teaching the living entities of this world by his own example, living in that environment, going for darshan of Sri Ranganath daily, and passing his time in discussing topics related to Krishna. At that time, 3 brothers by the names Tirumalai, Venkata, and Gopal Guru, another name for Prabodhānanda, because he was the teacher of Gopal Bhatta Gosvāmī. So he was also called Gopal Guru. They had originally come from Mahishur, Mysore region, and were living in Srirangam. Originally, these brothers were residents of either Andhra or Uttar Pradesh. Sriman Mahaprabhu was so fond of this Brahmin family that he spent 4 months in their home. The son of the middle brother, Venkata, was Sri Gopal Bhatta, a young teenager at the time, who later became one of the 6 Goswāmīs. The Sri Sampradaya Vaishnavas are attached to the worship of Sri Lakshmi Narayan, but through Sriman Mahaprabhu's heartfelt compassion, this Bhatta family became experts in relishing the sweet rasa of Krishna. Though not much is known of Tirumalai, it can be at least inferred that he too gave his life and soul to Sri Chaitanya. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Dev's discussions with Sri Venkata Bhatta are recorded in Śrī Caitanya-candrāmṛta, in the 9th chapter of Madhya Lila. Sri Prabodhānanda's attachment to Sri Chaitanya was incomparable. With Sri Prabodhānanda's fine tutelage, Sri Venkata's son, Sri Gopal Bhatta, ultimately achieved a position as an acharya of Sri Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Sri Prabodhānanda's place among the servants of Sri Chaitanya is extremely elevated, in his Sri Gaur Ganodesh Deepika, Shri Kavi Karnapur has proclaimed Shri Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī to be Tungavidya Sakhi in Krishna's pastimes. At the beginning of Shri Hari Bhakti Vilas, it is written that Gopal Bhatta, the disciple of Śrīla Prabodhānanda, who is Shri Bhagavan's dearly beloved, has compiled Shri Hari Bhakti Vilas to please Shri Rupa, Shri Sanatan, and Shri Raghunath Das. Also in Bhakti Ratnakar it is written, Keho kahe Prabodhānandera guna ati, sarvatra hailajar khyati Sarasvatī. So some say that Prabodhānanda was very qualified and he was renowned everywhere as Sarasvatī. Puruna Brahma Shri Krishna Chaitanya Bhagavan Tar Priya Taha Bina Swapne Nahiyan. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, was very fond of Prabodhānanda. And Prabodhānanda knew nothing but Shri Krishna Chaitanya, even in his dreams. Parama Vairagya Sneha Murti Manoram Mahakavi Gita Vadya Nritya Anupam Jahar Bhakya Shuni Sukha Badai Savar Prabodhānandera Maha Mahima Apar. He, Shri Prabodhānanda, was extremely renounced and the veritable personification of affection. He was a great poet and unrivaled in the arts of singing, dance, and musical instrumentation. Hearing his poetry increased everyone's bliss. Shri Prabodhānanda's glories are boundless. When Sriman Mahaprabhu returned from the south and came back to Nilachal, Shri Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī, within a few short years, entered deeply into the process of worship that had emanated from Shri Krishna Chaitanya's heart. He left Sri Rangam, taking with him only the vow to perform his most cherished form of bhajan. Thus, under the shelter of Sri Gaura's feet, not wasting any time, he came to Mathura Mandal and began living in Kamyavan. Shri Gopal Bhatta's longing for Brajadam also grew, and he soon followed in his uncle's footsteps. The question arises in many people's hearts as to why Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu did not put in writing any description of Prabodhānanda's glories, even though Prabodhānanda was clearly so dear to Sri Gauranga. The writings in Sri Bhakti Ratnakar are sufficient to reconcile this point. The author, Sri Ghanashyam Das, or Sri Narahari Chakravarti, says, okay, I'm just going to read the translation of this. Narahari Chakravarti says that some have described portions of all these accounts of Gopal Bhatta, some have not. The seed of offenses grows in the hearts of those who do not understand the reason for this disparity and make false assumptions. Supremely adept poets of previous eras did not describe these matters, despite being fully competent. Though Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami expanded upon the pastimes that Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur had not described in full detail, he too left some pastimes to be described by the poets of succeeding ages. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was overjoyed to receive countless Vaishnava's blessings to describe the lives of Mahaprabhu and his devotees within the sacred text of Śrī Caitanya-candrāmṛta. And Sri Gopal Bhatta was delighted to give Sri Kaviraj Goswami his blessings, but forbade him from including any personal details about him. Why did he forbid Kaviraj Goswami from doing so? Who can understand this? He thought of himself as very fallen and wretched. Sri Kaviraj Goswami did not transgress his directive and only mentioned his name. He did not divulge any details about his life. So that was from Narahari Chakravarti in Bhakti Ratnakar. Some people say, and this is back to Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur, some people say that Sri Prabodhānanda's writings evidence support of Swakiyavad. And because Sri Rupa Gaur Bhaktas recognize the superiority of Bharakiya Bhajan, they do not discuss Sri Sarasvatī Goswami Prabhu so much. Whatever the case, only nirapeksh, unbiased devotees who have taken shelter of Sri Chaitanya's feet, like Sri Narahari Das, the author of Bhakti Ratnakar, are blessed. Hence, like him, all should abandon kutarka, futile arguments, and relish Śrī Prabodhānanda's immaculate adherence to Śrī Gaura's guidance, Gauranugatya, and the sweetness of his servitude in the Parakiya mood, his Parakiya Dasya Madhuri, to Śrī Vrindavaneshwari. So this paragraph here is very important for us. Later on, we'll see why as we start to discuss. But the main thing is that some people assume that he supported Swakiyavad, but Saraswati Thakur makes it very clear that his conclusion is that he was firmly in the Parakiya mood, serving in that mood. Śrī Prabodhānanda's moods are superbly articulated. A simultaneous depth and sweetness are observed in his language. All Vaishnavas under the shelter of Śrī Chaitanya's feet perpetually read Prabodhānanda's Śrī Vrindavana Shatak and derive unrivaled delight from it. The Grantha he wrote titled Śrī Navadip Shatak closely resembles Śrī Vrindavana Shatak. Śrī Prabodhānanda's poetic masterpiece, Śrī Radha Rasa Sudhanidhi, is truly incomparable in this world. General fans of poetry may not experience so much joy from this text, but for sincere devotees who are saturated with the rasa of Śrī Hari, this Grantha is extremely dear. Appeal either wanes or waxes according to individual preference. So these transcendental moods, which are far beyond the grasp of this realm, being rooted in Braja Rasa, will affect readers in accordance with their sukriti. Śrī Prabodhānanda has written one Grantha titled Vivek Shatak. Mention of it can be found in Professor Alfred's catalog, and the late Ramdas Sen Mahashaya of Berampur claims to have seen it. The sacred text of Śrī Caitanya-candrāmṛta has been widely circulated throughout Bengal. Even those opposed to Śrī Gauranga will read this Grantha and experience their hearts being purified. Needless to say, if the followers of Śrī Gauranga read this text, they will be submerged in an ocean of inexplicable joy. The hosts of infinitesimal living entities certainly hold fast to the hope of attaining some small portion of the inexhaustible, invaluable storehouse of prem, belonging to one who served the Lord of Goloka for 4 months, and upon whom the Lord bestowed the most rare Krishna prem. Some people attempt to establish that the Kashi-dwelling Mayavadi, Prakashananda, and Prabodhānanda, who is the foremost of Vaishnavas, are the same person. But we cannot put faith in their words in any way, because in the 3rd chapter of Śrī Caitanya Bhagavat's Madhya Khanda, it is written, and I'll just read the translation to this. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is written, in this way, in Navadvip, Lord Vishwambhar remains immersed in the joy of bhakti along with all of his servants. One day, upon hearing a verse about Varaha, he roared and entered Murari Gupta's house. Satisfied with Gupta's prayers, Lord Varaha began expressing anger towards the Vedas. They defy me, saying I have neither hands, feet, mouth, nor eyes. In Kashi, my son Prakashananda teaches this and cuts my limbs apart piece by piece. He explains the Vedas, but he does not accept my transcendental form. That is why he has contracted leprosy all over his body. Yet still, he cannot understand that he contracted leprosy because of his offenses to my form. My holy limbs are the embodiments of all yajna. Brahma and Shiva sing of the pastimes of those limbs. How does he have the audacity to deem false those limbs, which, by their touch, yield piety and sanctity? This incident happened sometime between 1425 and 1430 Shaka era. In 1433, Sriman Mahaprabhu made his auspicious arrival in Srirangam and met those 3 brothers, including Śrī Prabodhānanda. At that time, they were Śrī Ramanujiya Vaishnavas of the Śrī Sampradaya. That means they were Vishishta Advaitavadis and worshippers of Śrī Narayan's eternal form. And Prakashananda, at that same time, was one of the foremost servants of Mayavad, as propagated by Shankar. Attempting to make these 2 individuals one, or to even compare them, is simply absurd. The 20th chapter of Śrī Caitanya Bhagavat's Madhya Khanda mentions Prakāśānanda as follows. There's a comma there. So this is Chaitanya Bhagavat. As he was speaking, Mahaprabhu, suddenly entered the mood of being Ishvara, and grinding his teeth said, "There is a monk named Prakāśānanda who lives in Kashi, and he is verily tearing my body apart. He teaches Vedanta, but he does not believe in my form. I had him contract leprosy, but still he could not understand his folly. How does this son of mine find the audacity to say that my limbs, wherein the infinite universes rest, are false? I say truly, Murari, that you are my servant. One who does not believe in my limbs meets with ruin. My pastimes and activities and abode are true. His saying they are false tears me to pieces. That sinful teacher deems false those glories and those pastimes that destroy ignorance merely by hearing of them. O Gupta, one who has no regard for such pious glory, knows nothing of the truth of my incarnations." Can you read the last few paragraphs? I need to eat some breakfast.
Sure. Yes. Prakāśānanda was at that time the leader of the Ekadandi sannyasis of the Shankara Sampradaya, and Śrī Prabodhānanda was a Ramanujiya Tudandi G.I. Swami, who had moved from the Mahishura, the Mysore region, to Rangakshetra. Prakāśānanda was an impersonalist and resident of Kashi, whereas Prabodhānanda was ultimately an inhabitant of Kamyaban in Braj and a Vaishnava. One person was an Aryavartavasi, North Indian, and the other was a South Indian Vaishnava. One of them was an impersonalist, and the other was a Vishishtadvaita personalist, who later took shelter of the teachings of Achintya-dvaita Dvaita. One was antagonistic to Vishnu and the Vaishnavas and became a devotee after being delivered, whereas the other was an eternal associate of Sri Gaur and the Gurudev of Vaishnavacharya Sri Gopala Bhatta Goswami. To accuse Sri Gopala Bhatta Goswami's most worshipful paternal uncle, why did I say parental? To accuse Sri Gopala Bhatta Goswami's most worshipful paternal uncle and Gurudev of being a Mayavadi, antagonist of Vishnu, and an antagonist of Vishnu and Vaishnavas, and blasting him, thus as someone bound and conditioned in material life, instead of recognizing him as the crown jewel of all eternally liberated devotees, is a grave offense to a Vaishnava that will lead one to hell. The account of the Mayavadi Prakāśānanda is recorded in Śrī Caitanya-candrāmṛta, Madhya Lila, chapter 25, and Adi Lila, chapter 7. It is absurd to think that the same person who was a Mayavadi from 1925 to 1430 Shaka could go to South India in 1433 Shaka and become a Ramanujiya Sri Vaishnava, and then in 1435 Shaka become a Mayavadi again. Hence, any attempt to establish Prakāśānanda as being the same as Śrī Prabodhānanda is simply indicative of being utterly uninformed. The resultant inclination to rip up historic facts from the root and discard them is not a matter to be grieved lightly. One second, my mic wasn't plugged in. 1 second. All right, sorry. Yeah, so the resultant inclination to rip up historic facts from the roots and discard them is not a matter to be grieved lightly. We are seeing this mishap at present simply because Shripad Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī, compelled by his humility and benign nature, had Sri Gopal Bhatta forbid any mention of him in Śrī Caitanya-candrāmṛta, and because Srila Kaviraj Goswami did not disobey his wishes. If Śrī Prabodhānanda had known that in the future there would arise a terribly misguided effort to rank him among the offenders of Vishnu and the Vaishnavas of his time, he might not have forbidden Sri Kaviraj Goswami in such a way via Bhatta Goswami. Readers of Bhakti Ratnakar can understand this. And there's a footnote. It says, it is worth considering whether or not Śrīla Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī was physically manifest when Śrīla Kaviraj Gosvāmī started writing Śrī Caitanya-candrāmṛta. Okay. The following is written in Bhakti Ratnakar regarding Śrīla Prabodhānanda. Tirumalaya, Venkata, and Prabodhānanda. These three brothers' life and soul was Sri Gaurachandra. They were previously worshippers of Lakshmi Narayan, but by Mahaprabhu's mercy, they became intoxicated with the ras of Radha and Krishna. When they heard Mahaprabhu was to leave Rangakshetra, all three brothers began thinking, how will we survive without Prabhu? Who will laugh and joke with us? Who will take us with them to go to bathe in the Kaveri? As they bade Prabhu farewell from there, after 4 months of his staying, as they bade Prabhu farewell from there, after 4 months of his staying with them, they began to cry from pangs of imminent separation from him. Prabhu embraced all three brothers and spoke many consoling words to them. Some say that Śrī Prabodhānanda was a very qualified person who is renowned everywhere as a Sarasvatī sannyasi. Śrī Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the supreme personality of Godhead, and Śrī Prabodhānanda was very dear to him. Aside from Mahaprabhu, he knew no one else, not even in his dreams. Do you want to continue, Srivas? Are you finished? Or?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
So in Professor Offrecht's catalog, a text named Sri Sangeet Madhav is included in the list of books written by Śrī Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī. We have collected this grantha, and it has been published in full in the Śrī Sajantoshini Patrika, from issue 5 of year 18 till issue 12 of year 18. Householder Vaishnavas in the Śrī Sampradaya.
In the Sajantoshini Patrika, was that also in Sanskrit, like during Śrīla Sarasvatī Thakur Prabhupada's time? I don't know. I can't remember. I know that the English was raised, it was the harmonist, is also called Sajantoshini, but wasn't it? Or no, the Bhagavat was a Sanskrit one, wasn't it? No, I can't remember.
Oh, so I've seen Sajantoshini issues that were completely Sanskrit, fully Sanskrit.
Okay, so it was Sanskrit. Okay, cool. Sorry.
And this, I remember looking everywhere for original edition of this Sangeet Madhav. I couldn't find it anywhere except there in the Sajantoshini. Okay. Only place to find it. But no translations.
Okay.
Also, their Vaishnavas in the Śrī Sampradaya simply do not leave home and take Ekadanda sannyas. Ekadanda is the Mayavad sannyas. They all take Tridanda sannyas and are given the title Śrī Ramanujyarya Swami, in addition to an individual name. Some study Śrīla Prabodhānanda's Śrī Caitanya-candrāmṛta and conclude that he was a Brahma sannyasi, he's a Mayavadi sannyasi. But in the absence of specific proof, accepting this gives rise to countless perplexities. Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī. And if I recall correctly, I have the original Bengali here. It's Śrī Caitanya-candrāmṛta, Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur published Śrī Caitanya-candrāmṛta and Navadip Shatakam, yes, together in one book. And this is the introduction to that. Yeah.
Srivas, I have a question. Why did so many people want to make him out to be why were they saying that he's the same as Prakashananda Sarasvatī? Like, did they have some issue with him? Like, what was the issue basically? Is it because of the Swakiya thing? Like, yeah, do you have any idea?
It's it's interesting, the whole history of this this article, and then Prabodhānanda Sarasvati's history, and actually how relevant it all is still today. is quite interesting. It's like, we're going through a process as a community of, okay, Śrīla Swami Mahārāja came to the West, introduced this tradition to us, to our parents, and now we're coming and absorbing ourselves in the tradition and learning a lot of the backstory, a lot of the complexities behind the scenes that go on. And we're learning this individually and collectively. And so, today we see differences between Vaishnavas, different moods, different practices. And then people get very, very cliquey and pick one side over the other, start criticizing each other, start, throwing barbs at each other. And so I believe that all of this and this specific pastime of Śrī Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī is to teach us something. Like everything the Vaishnavas and Bhagavan do, all their pastimes have profound meaning. And there's no coincidences, no mistakes. So devotees may be familiar that in recent years, there's been a surge in popularity of a certain Vaishnava outside, not in our line, Sri Premananda Baba of the Radha Vallabhis in Vrindavan. And if you've ever been to Vrindavan, then you will have noticed these Vaishnavas who wear bright yellow cloths around their upper body, and they often smear mud all over their faces, and they will shout out things like Radha Vallabha Shri Harivansh, right? And their worshipful deity, their beloved deity, is Shri Radha Vallabha, actually just very close to Rup Sanatan behind. Very beautiful deity, and one of the most beautiful deities in Braj, actually. And Premananda Baba, he's been a long time practicing ascetic in that tradition, and over the last decade, he's come more into the spotlight and been speaking more. And he gives very beautiful katha, especially from Shri Radha Rasa Sudhanidhi. I've been meeting Vaishnavas wherever, even when I travel other places in India. Like I went to Jaipur a couple of years ago. I met a Vaishnava of the Ramanandi Sampradaya, and he was wearing a Tulsi pendant with Radha Nam on his chest. Now you have to remember the Ramanandis in Jaipur were the ones who wanted to take Radharani off the altar in Jaipur. They're the reason why Baladev Vidyabhushan had to come to Jaipur and write a commentary on Vedanta Sutra in one night, dictated by Govindaji. And now those same Ramanandi Vaishnavas are wearing the pendants of Radhaji on their chest. And this Vaishnava, he attributes all of that to the katha of Premananda Baba. That Premananda Baba is so powerful in glorifying Srimati Radharani and the supremacy of Radharani. He's having such a huge impact on people all across India and the world. And in some ways, I've heard people criticize him, even within his own tradition, criticize him for putting Radharani too high. So this reminds me of our Gurudev's mood. We often, one could perceive it that way, that he was almost putting Radharani on the higher platform. But of course, this is only, a way to glorify both Yugal Kishore. One time I visited Premananda Baba, and I was very deeply moved by his words. He was very respectful of our sampradaya, of the differences, and he acknowledged that, we believe this Radha Rasa Sunandiri was written by Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī. I found him to be very respectful of our tradition. And I feel like this is relevant, and so we should be very respectful of other Vaishnavas and their traditions and their moods, while at the same time understanding the unique speciality that is in our line, and developing more attachment and appreciation for that. It's not like we have to hate other people to appreciate what we have, right? we can love ourselves and everybody else as befitting. So this, as Srila Sarasvatī Thakur mentioned here earlier, remember I said that was an important paragraph. Page 8. Some people say that Śrī Prabodhānanda's writings evidence support of Swakiyavad. And so when this is from an article that Gurudev originally included in his 5 essential essays, and it was not included in the English translation because the devotee who was translating it, actually, this is speculation. We're speculating that this devotee thought it wasn't necessary, or perhaps thought it was too controversial at that time. But it seems very relevant now, and we want to bring Gurudev's works in full to the world. And one of our god brothers, Shripad Haripriya Prabhu, did extensive research on this topic and prepared the initial essay for Gurudev, and Gurudev edited it and published it. And so Haripriya Prabhu and Gurudev, they go into some references from from Radharasa Sudhanidhi that may suggest that Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī was leaning a little bit towards this Swakiya mood. We also know that Srila Jiva Gosvāmī was also doing this. But when we read from contemporary writers at that time, they say that it was because Jiva Gosvāmī was favoring one disciple. He had a disciple named Gopal, and he named the Gopal Champu after this disciple. And the whole description of Gopal Champu, it follows Bhagavatam and it follows the Goswamis and Rupa Goswami's mood in many places. There is an aspect of describing the outer prakoshta of Golok, where Radha and Krishna are married, and even Baladev is married, and they share a large palace in Nandagaon with their quarters on either side of the palace. So Baladev has him and his wife on one side, and Radha and Krishna on the other side. So this is one. This, just like Vaikuntha is this most opulent dimension. Then there's Ayodhya. Then there's Dwarka, and as you go up, the sweetness, the amount of madhurya within the Aishwarya increases. And so then there's another dimension after Dwarka and Mathura in Braj that still is very opulent. And this is where Radha and Krishna are married. And it's personally, I feel like.
Sorry.
Yeah, go.
Sorry, I cut you off totally.
No.
I was just wondering, in this realm, or this outer Goloka or whatever, like where Radha and Krishna are married, is it like even more Aishwarya than Dwarka?
I'm not sure. You'll have to read Gopal Champu carefully and
Okay.
make your own.
Okay, I thought I remember hearing somebody say that, but I can't remember actually. Like I just have some like thought in my head.
Well,
I mean,
I've heard that from our Vaishnavas, and believe I've seen written in some Shastras, our Gaudiya Shastras, that so Vaikuntha has many golden palaces bedecked with jewels and thrones bedecked with jewels and very externally very opulent. But when you come to Vrindavan, even the most inner dimension of Vrindavan that looks almost indistinguishable from material world, the ordinary earth planet. If you read Sri Kavi Karnapur's Ananda Vrindavan Champu and his description of the Yogapit there, you'll start to understand that so even though there's not outwardly as many golden buildings and palaces, when you start to look at the plants, it says that some trees have trunks made of sapphire and leaves of emerald and fruits of gold. So there's something very special going on in Gokul, Golok Vrindavan, that they're living gems. So this is not just, okay, Okay, of course, everything in Vaikuntha is still conscious, but in Braj, it takes on another level of consciousness and beauty and richness. So even a small piece of grass is like an emerald, a stem of emerald. And so it's just one particle of dust in Vrindavan is a chintamani, is far greater than any other opulent domain. So
is there a verse in Caitanya-candrāmṛta or something like that? I can't remember where I heard it, but it says like even the jewels on the gopi, like on the gopis' ankle bells are like the jewels that the Dwarka queens would have on their, like the crest jewels on their crowns. It's like
any
and
statements like that. Yeah.
and I remember Tridandi Maharaj would give an example of water and salt, and he'd say that if you have a cup of water and you put just a teaspoon of salt in it, the water becomes very salty. So the water is Madhurya, I guess, and the salt is Aishwarya. So, you know, in Vaikuntha, there's, or even in Dwarka, you know what I mean? There is some Madhurya, but just even a little bit of Aishwarya makes it like very overbearing. But if you go to a river and you throw a big bag of salt into the river and you taste the water, it won't be salty. So the Madhurya, even though the Aishwarya is much greater than in Dwarka or Vaikuntha in Vrindavan, but because the Madhurya is so overpowering, it just washes out. Like you can't even detect the Aishwarya.
And it gets flowing. It's eternally fresh moods of rasa in Braj. Yeah, that's beautiful analogy. So, so Śrī Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī, he some of his poetry may show signs of this Swakiyavad. And he may have done this to, like Jiva Goswami, to protect the very deep and very intimate moods that Srila Rupa Goswami was sharing, for those who are not qualified or ready to digest that. And Haripriya Prabhu has gone further and dug up some evidence that that there were two, like that most of the like in Chaitanya Charitamrita and in contemporary writings of like Srila Jiva Goswami, the writings of Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī are not quoted at all. So this suggests that there was a difference in mood. There was kind of two groups forming in Vrindavan. But they were very respectful of each other. And Jiva Goswami was maybe a bridge between both of these groups. But it seems that Rupa Goswami was, he had really established that mode of parakya with his writings. And at the same time, Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī had provided an alternative that was maybe a little bit more digestible for people who couldn't adjust to this parakya mood. Because he doesn't overtly clearly state that Radharani is married to someone else and Krishna is meeting with her. Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī doesn't mention that. But he glorifies Radharani and the pastimes between Radha and Krishna. And he uses words like Radhapati and Dampati. Dampati meaning a couple, like a wedded couple. So, but there's no evidence to suggest that there was any actual conflict between these groups. It was just just different moods. And then,
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
And also there's that famous thing that like I mean I can't remember it so clearly, but Srila Jiva Goswami wrote a whole long thing on the topic of Swakiyavad, right? And then at the very end of it, doesn't he write that this isn't my opinion, but I wrote it to please, like, for the pleasure of some, whatever, for others or something like that. But he said, this isn't my opinion, really.
He said, like, I wrote some of this of my own volition and some of this for others, right? Okay, and so then it's left up to us to decide what he wrote for others and what he wrote.
Sorry, I cut you off, though. Yeah.
No, that's fine. there is in Braja, there are three very exalted Vaishnavas. Swami Haridas, who manifested Sri Banki Bihari from Nibbana. Then Sri Hariram Vyas, who manifested these deities of Yugal Kishore from Kishorvan, which is the secret unknown half of Sevakunj that nobody visits because the entrance is on the other side from Loy Bazaar. But it's actually like, it's a little bit smaller than Sevakunj and not as well maintained. It's like between Radha Shamsundar, behind Radha Shamsundar and Sevakunj is this whole other garden. And so Hariram Vyas was doing his bhajan there and manifested these deities of Radha Yugal Kishore, just Yugal Kishore. They're about the same size as Govindaji, big, beautiful deities. And, you know, the big temple at Keshi Ghat, there's this big spire at Keshi Ghat. It kind of looks like Madan Mohan, a smaller version of Madan Mohan. And you go there and there's no deities in the temple. And the people say, yes, what happened to the deities? They say, oh, they were stolen. But turns out those deities are in Orcha in Madhya Pradesh. The Hariram Vyas was from Orcha, and his wife made some offense one day. She was feeding all the Vaishnavas, and then she gave her husband the special portion, gave him more sweet rice, and he got really upset with her. Why are you giving me preferential treatment over everyone else? So then she was thinking what to do. Oh my God, how can I make this up to him? And she had so much very valuable golden jewelry. So she sold her jewelry and arranged for this temple to be built to house her husband's deities. But later on, when everything happened in Vrindavan and the deities were being taken away, these deities got moved to Madhya Pradesh, got taken back to their hometown. They're still there today.
Is this all during the same time as the Goswamis, like that time period?
Yes. So this Hariram Vyas, and then the third Hari. In Braj, there's three Haris. The third Hari is this Sri Harivansh, and he perhaps was the most prominent Hari. He was a disciple of Gopal Bhatta Goswami to start with. But one day he showed up in front of his Guruji on the day of Ekadashi with his lips stained red with pan, chewing pan. And Gopal Bhatta Goswami is editing and compiling Hari Bhakti Vilas, Satkriya Sansar Dipika, and his disciple is chewing pan on Ekadashi. So he had to chastise him very heavily and externally reject him. There's a beautiful pastime wherein Radharani comes to Gopal Bhatta Goswami and says, why did you reject Hari? I gave him the pan. I gave him the pan. This wasn't his fault. And Gopal Bhatta Goswami says, you are, swatantra. You can do whatever you like, Swaminiji. You don't have to follow any of the rules. You can break the rules and make other people break the rules. But I am in the position of Acharya. You've put me in this position, this role of Acharya. I have to set the standard for other people. I've been given this seva by Mahaprabhu, by the Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. So I'm bound. I cannot, So a very interesting interaction between Radhaji and one of her manjaris. Almost standing up. Oh, is the cow? What is the cow doing to you, Madhukar?
Just bucked me from behind. Not hard, but just pushed me.
Anyways, this Sri Harivansh was he was like a Raganuga sadhak, and sometimes Raganuga sadhaks, we hear about Jagannathas Babaji Maharaj or Banshidas Babaji Maharaj. It's very hard to understand their behavior. Gorkishodas Babaji Maharaj was regularly quarreling with Gornitai. When the boys in Navadvip would, oh my God, she's really bucking you.
She wants
some screen time. Or she wants scratches. That's what she wants. Okay. So yeah, the behavior of the Raganuga Vaishnavas is very difficult to understand. And Sri Hariram Vyas was very impressed. So Hariram Vyas was actually initiated by a disciple of Madhavendra Puri. So he was a Madhva Vaishnav, Gaudiya Madhva Vaishnav. And he's written a book also that discusses Madhvacharya's philosophy. And Harivansh was also Gaudiya, initiated in the Gaudiya. And Swami Haridas, his guru, was from Karnataka, was also Madhva Vaishnava. So all the Vaishnavas in Vrindavan were very much Gaudiya, and of course there was Nimbarka influence from before. But nowadays they're more aligned with the Nimbarka Sampradaya than the Gaudiya, even though they kind of originated in the Madhva Gaudiya. And Hariram Vyas and Swami Haridas were very impressed with Sri Harivansh and his moods and his dedication. And it seems that he was so absorbed in Radharasa Sudhanidhi that he had memorized it by heart, that, you know, later on people assumed that Harivansh had written it himself. But it's so beautiful, I think, that, you know, even though Gopalbhadra Goswami had to reject Harivansh externally because of this, you know, him not wanting to follow Akadashi, he sent him to live and study under the guidance of his uncle, Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī, who was very reclusive and almost eccentric. You know, he was, if you see the painting of him there at his samadhi, he's depicted as having very long hair and beard. And
the Sarasvatī are
Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī.
Oh, interesting.
Long beard and hair, and with his arms upraised with kartals. So there's some image of him, you know, and he was very expert at singing and music. And so it seems absorbed in writing this wonderful poetry and reciting it for the Vaishnavas. And a lot of people were really drawn to that, to his mood. And if you see his samadhi and bhajan kutir there by Kaliyadaha, and then not too far from that, just a little bit further up the road towards ISKCON, is with the bhajan kutir of Harivansh. So they were living right there next to each other in that kind of another section of Vrindavan.
Can I ask you something? And
yes, yes.
I don't know if you were aware, but I was in Vrindavan in 2023, and in around March, I found out that there is a court case. There was a court case at that time, trying to prove that Sarasvatī Prabodhānanda was the writer of Radhadasa Sudhanidhi. Have you heard anything about that? And it was kind of going back to what Madhukar Prabhu was saying, you know, how is that? I mean, even up to today, you have that force. I don't know if they're followers of Hari Das, or are you aware of that? Or
yeah, I'm not aware of the particulars of the court cases, but apart from the fact that there have been more than one court case in this
one, yeah. Okay, so this one, I think we won. But Prabodhānanda, I think, was ultimately given the authorship of it. But I just thought it was interesting, and if you knew something, but I thought, wow, that this mood of a court, you know, it keeps going against him, like, you know.
Well, and this is the wonderful thing, is that these treasures, actually, the writings of Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī are so powerful that and so impactful, so sweet, that it has Vaishnavas till this day, for like almost like 300 years fighting over it, you know, wanting to possess it. You know, everyone wants this nectar, and it just goes to glorify it.
Right.
And so this essay, it'll be coming in two portions. One portion is what Gurudev originally published in his 5 essential essays, But since then, Haripriya Prabhu has done further research on this topic and come up more and more information. So we've included that as an appendix. And
terrific.
there's a lot of very interesting information. I don't want to give too much away, you know, and spoil the publication. You'll have to.
But thank you for the preview.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
And I guess I just mentioned that it's because of this, like, because there was these two groups formed early on in Vrindavan, perhaps right during the time of Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī and Rupa Gosvāmī, and then evolved more just after them during Jiva Goswami's time and this time of Hitarivangsha and Swami Haridas and Hariram Vyas. But there was still no conflict until the 1700s. And so that's when the conflict started, really, and became kind of nasty. And there's a story about Hitarivangsha being murdered in just a ghastly way, having his head cut off, and then the head floating up to Gopal Bhatta Goswami as he's taking bath in the Jamuna. And but the Hitarivangsha still somehow being alive and begging forgiveness from Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and Gopal Bhatta Goswami forgiving him.
Wow. Did you find this in some writing or article by Acharya?
Goswamis from Radharaman, they speak openly about this story.
Right.
And then the Goswamis from the Vaishnavas from the Radha Vallabhis say that no, this didn't happen to our Harivangsha, this happened to one of your Goswamis. And you're yours. One of your Goswamis, their head cut off by some gundas. It was this horrible thing. But you don't want it to be associated with you, so you're putting it on us. So it's like very distasteful kind of thing that's come up. And certain followers or the sons of Hitarivangsha claim that Hitarivangsha was the guru of even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What to speak of? And he was the guru of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of Vallabhacharya, that basically he was like the topmost. And many of the Radha Vallabhis still like believe these things and want and believe that they are the topmost, or want to believe that they're the topmost, or say this to rich, people so this is why we maintain a little bit of distance from them, right? But that's not to say that there's many very sincere, pure-hearted Vaishnavas within their tradition as well. And the Gaudiyas are guilty, that proof has been uncovered that the Gaudiyas are guilty of, because Radha Rasa Sudhanidhi, this is especially about Radha Rasa Sudhanidhi, that because Hitarivangsha just dove into Radha Rasa Sudhanidhi and memorized it, and all the Vaishnavas in his association began to memorize it, and then so many they kept copying it and reproducing it. So a lot of the old manuscripts that we have, mostly it's harder to find manuscripts from the 16th or 1500s. Most of them are from the 1700s, and they all have Hitarivangsha's name as the author. So to deal with this issue that, oh no, we're losing Prabodhānanda Sarasvati's words, right? He is a Gaudiya Acharya. Some Gaudiya Vaishnavas came up with a tactic of saying, no, Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī was a Gaudiya. He was Prakashananda. See, oh look, it's so similar. The names are so similar. He was Prakashananda. He was delivered by Mahaprabhu. It's because of Mahaprabhu. Then he came to Vrindavan and he wrote this thing. So this book is ours and we can claim it. So two groups of immature people fighting over the sampati, the wealth of Bhagavan and his devotees for their own motives, has created this confusion, and very clear evidence has been uncovered that they added a verse to the end of Radha Rasa Sudhanidhi. They can tell nowadays when looking at the manuscript that some chemical was used to remove the colophon, the ending portion of the manuscript, and then add in an extra verse and then finish it off like that. So the Gaudiyas now, we have to admit that some Gaudiyas did this, and they were guilty of trying to forge the manuscript of Radha Rasa Sudhanidhi to prove that Prabodhananda Saraswati was Prakashananda to try and reclaim Radha Rasa Sudhanidhi. So, yes, very interesting, controversial topic. But I think it's very instructive for us and going forward, how to deal with different groups of Vaishnavas, how to deal with our heritage, how to do proper research. Oh, and the last thing I want to mention is the Viveka Shatak that Bhaktisiddhānta Saraswati Thakur mentions here in his article, One Book by Prabodhananda Saraswati. As he mentions there that he hadn't seen it previously. It was someone else in Behrampur who had seen it. There was mention of this book, but it was not in print. But recently, in recent years, Dr. Damien Martin discovered it in an old library in Vrindavan and translated it and published it. So we live in an age actually where we actually even have access to even more ancient documents and texts than some of our acharyas did. So, you know, the doors keep opening up and expanding, and the technology and the distribution keeps expanding. And there's, at the end of this article that will be presented in Gurdjieff's 5 Essential Essays, new publication of it, new edition of it, there's verses of this Vivek Shatak included. It's very beautiful to read Prabodhananda Saraswati's Vivek Shatak, because it was written before he came to Vrindavan. It was written in Srirangam. And
I
so
have
you get
a
it.
question.
Yes?
I read a book a few years ago. It was a very small book by Śrīla Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī. And the English translation of the title was something like The Path of Desire. And in it, he's a Manjari, and he wants to tell Krishna to go away. And I asked some other devotees about that book, and they said that it doesn't exist. So is there a small book by him, by that name, similar name?
I'm not sure. I'll have to look. He's got some very, very beautiful writings. One of his is Ascharya Ras Prabandha, and it's basically it's a retelling of the Ras Leela pastime that we hear in Bhagavatam, but it's got extra details, extra chapters of the story that are just absolutely mind-blowing. I highly recommend people to read that, even though it's a very exalted book.
You know where we can get the book?
Find all of this at Ras Bihari Lal in Vrindavan.
Oh, okay. Yes, yes.
Shivas, you mentioned to me
Thank
that
you.
this Damien Martin, he discovered that he claims that Nityanandashtakam was written by Prabodhananda Saraswati, like the famous one that we sing all the time.
Yes. Yes.
And so it's not from Prabhupada Thakur. What was that all about? Like, was the evidence actually like really like convincing? It was, huh?
Yeah, very old manuscripts dating back, I forget, I think to the 1700s, with Prabodhananda Saraswati's name on them. And compared to that, there's like the Nityananda Ashtakam had been published in various Bengali collections of Ashtakams that had no proper referencing of who the author was. And in some Bengali collections, it was attributed to Krishnadas Kaviraj Gosvāmī. In others, it was attributed to Vrindavan Das Thakur. So when you have that on one side, was it Krishnadas Kaviraj or was it Vrindavan Das Thakur? And coming from a shoddy, references, and then you have very clear, much older references saying that this was actually Prabodhananda Saraswati. And then you look at the composition style of the Ashtakam and you compare it to other verses of, and that's what he's done in his Vivek Shatak. Damien Martin has included Nityananda Ashtakam, and he's included an analysis of certain phrases used within Nityananda Ashtakam that very closely mirror. And this is kind of how you tell a writer's signature. He's going to use similar phrases again and again, just out of habit. So he's done this comparison, and for me, it's quite convincing. And so I think Yeah, you should maybe put this in the songbook, to put a little footnote that this may be.
Can you help me write a footnote for that?
Yeah. Yeah. So
I already did write a footnote and I showed it, but I think it'd be better. I'll show you what I wrote, but I think you could probably do something better because I haven't even seen it. I just.
And then this, see, so there's another controversy around Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī. He's just surrounded by controversy. Like a star that everybody just wants to have. The Navadvip Shatak, right? So many people accuse Bhaktivinoda Thakur of writing Navadvip Shatak, of copying Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī Thakur's style and writing Navadvip Shatak. Now, this is absurd for several reasons. Bhaktivinoda Thakur already was at full to the max. His workload was, he had a full-time job as a magistrate. He, slept barely 4 hours a night, did his Harinam sadhana, and produced about, over 100 books. That he would write something to copy Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī and then put his name on it. He would have just put his own name on it. He had no problem putting his name on, Sanskrit compositions like Krishna Samhita and so many other books. It's absurd that he would copy it or, and forge his own composition or, in that style and then put Prabodhānanda Sarasvati's name on it. And then with this revelation of Nityananda Ashtakam being Prabodhānanda Sarasvati's composition, it makes more sense that Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī wasn't just absorbed in Brajaras and worshipping Vrindavan. No, he was a true Gaudiya, and he had been so deeply impacted by Mahaprabhu. And he took shelter also of Nityananda Prabhu by glorifying him, right? And then after glorifying Nityananda Prabhu, perhaps, then went on to write this glorification of Mahaprabhu in Navadvip, that he was, so this Gaudiya mood of simultaneously worshipping Navadvip and Vrindavan is there. And that makes a lot more sense than anything else. And the whole idea that he's Prakashananda is just so absurd. And Haripriya Prabhu and Gurudev, they do a fantastic job of laying out all the different authors who have contributed to this misconception over the years and what their motives were, and just how absurd it all is. So I feel like this will be like the final nail in the coffin of this controversy when this article comes out. It's very definitive and it cannot be argued with. Or perhaps maybe it can be argued by people who they want to argue about something. They can find a way to argue about it, even if it doesn't make sense. But yeah.
Wow, it's so exciting to hear all this history. I never hear it's rare that I get to learn all this stuff. It's very interesting.
Yeah, the history is the best. There's so many little controversies. Prabhu, please.
There is a question I posted in chat about Ekadashi.
Sorry, you have a question about the Ekadashi?
Yes, I mentioned chat box.
Oh, okay. Let me see. In this person, still continuing in disciples. Yes. Even today, they still do not follow Ekadashi. And that's their mood, that they want to take the prasad on that day, and that they want to follow this Raganuga sadhan, like the gopis, maybe don't follow Ekadashi.
But there's also stories of the Brajvasis following Ekadashi, right? Nanda Baba and Srimad Bhagavad.
If you read Gopal Champu, Jiva Gosvāmī clearly mentions that Yashoda Maya and Nanda Baba, they did very serious Ekadashi and Dwadashi vrats leading up to the birth of Krishna, that this was their sadhana to attain Krishna as their child. I think this is why also Ekadashi is called Bhakti Janani, right? She's the mother of devotion. She's even the mother of devotion. And once you have devotion to Krishna, then Krishna can come in your heart. So she's also, in a way, the mother of Krishna. Right? Yeah, and Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī, just to take this opportunity to glorify him some more. It's such an extraordinary personality. And if you go deeper into the Padhatis of Dhyanchandra Goswami, or even into the Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī himself, he writes a commentary in the Kam Gayatri, which is senior devotees want to go deeper into their understanding of the mantra. I highly recommend that. It's really extraordinary. And then if you go into the Padhati of Dhyanchandra Goswami, Gopal Guru Goswami and Dhyanchandra Goswami, this Gaur Govindarchana Padhati, there's descriptions of each of the Sakhis, Ashta Sakhis, and their mood. And so the descriptions of Tungavidya Sakhi, that she is, I forget the exact terminology of it, but she is more favorable to Krishna. So she's almost the opposite of Lalita. So when Lalita is telling Radharani, be careful of that Krishna, that cheater, Tungavidya Sakhi is saying, Radharani, you're being too harsh with him. Look at him, he's so nice. He's so nice. Look, he's been crying for you. Look, and there's, I believe there was, when you look at the writings of Rupa Goswami and Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī, when you read them closely, you see something. It's almost like they're talking to each other. There's this song of Rupa Goswami where he's writing these names of Krishna, but it's like the missing puzzle piece to Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī's Ascharya Ras Prabandha. It's like everything that Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī actually mentioned in Ascharya Ras Prabandha, Rupa Goswami gives like a codified, summarized version of it in his song. It's like, it's unmistakable. I'd love to read it sometime with the devotees and look at it. It's both, you read both of them and you're like, it's inseparable. And then he has the 108 names of Radharani, Rupa Goswami. And the way he introduces it is that one day, Radharani, she's been in Man and she's rejected Krishna so strongly, and now she's talking to Tungavidya.
And just in case anybody didn't know, Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī in Krishna Lila is Tungavidya Sakhi, yeah?
Yes, sorry, yeah, he is, according to Gaur-Ganadesh Tipika, he is Tungavidya Sakhi. And so Radharani is talking to Tungavidya Devi, and Tungavidya Devi is informing her that, do you know what's happening right now? Vrinda Devi is over there in some kunj, and she's taking sindur, and she's writing out your names, 108 of your names, and Krishna is reading the names and reciting them over and over again. He's reading, Vrinda Devi is writing them, and Krishna is reciting them. And so that's how he introduces his 108 names of Radharani. In Dankeli, okay, so Rupa Goswami wrote Dankeli Chintamani, no, Dankeli Komadi. And then Raghunath Das Goswami was so inspired by this. Raghunath Das Goswami was suffering so much in separation. Reading things like Lalit Madhav just was drowning him in separation. And Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami were actually getting really worried about Raghunath Das Goswami. They were worried that he was going to, jump off of Govardhan. He was writing things like that, I guess that was later he was writing things like that. But they were so worried about his mental state that Rupa Goswami composed this Dankeli Komadi, a comedy, right, about the Dan Leela. And then it just totally changed Raghunath Das Goswami's mood. And he wrote his supplementary book to this, Dankeli Chintamani. And in fact, we know that Raghunath Das Goswami lived by Radhakund, and worship Radha Kund. But actually, at the end of his Stavamala, he writes an ashtakam called Dhanivardhan Kundashtakam, and prays to have residence there, to live there, to worship there. It's almost suggesting that the Dan Lila, there's something very, very special about the Dan Lila that even somehow surpasses Radha Kund. How could that possibly be? I don't know. This is way above our pay grade. But in that pastime, in Dankeli Chintamani, there's a beautiful description of how Radharani is coming with her Sakhis to Govardhan, and they see Krishna on top of the hill with his coward boys on top of Govardhan, and Radharani is talking to Tungavidya. And then later on, Krishna is talking to Radharani and her Sakhis, and he calls Lalita Chandi. He refers to Lalita as Chandi. Chandi is this very fierce form of Devi, of Durga Devi, right? Very fierce and in battle form of Devi, right? So Lalita is very, very aggressive. And then he refers to Tungavidya Sakhi as Bhairavi. And the Bhairavi form of Durga Devi is known to be like an astrologer. She's the Sahajiyas worship her because she is like a guru. She's a teacher. She's very knowledgeable. And this is what is known about Tungavidya Sakhi, is that she is a very expert astrologer, a very expert musician, poet. She has many talents like this. And then the Dhyanchandra Goswami's Paddhati also mentions that Lavanga Manjari, she's Sanatana Goswami, but Lavanga Manjari serves in her kunj. And I think this is really interesting because even in Vrindavan,
Lavanga Manjari is Sanatana Goswami Pad?
Yeah. So even in Sanatana Goswami Pad. So even in Vrindavan, we see there at Madan Mohan, Sanatana Goswami is living there at Madan Mohan, and just very close by, just up the road, is Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī. So even in this Gaur Lila, they were inseparable. They were still living so close to each other. And in the divine realm, in Radha Kund, they're serving together in the same kunj. So all these wonderful, inconceivable pastimes of the Lord and his associates, and their beautiful writings, treasures that have been passed down to us, little doorways for us to enter and absorb ourselves in these nectarian things. Thank you for having the patience to listen to all this. And
very fascinating. All new stuff for me. I haven't heard most everything you said, so very interesting.
Śrī Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī ki jai, Tungavidya Sakhi ki jai.
All right, so now I think it would be nice we could sing this song by Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī, Vasatu Manomama Madana Gopale. And there's lots of recordings of this being sung by, I think, there's a famous recording of Hare Krishna Prabhu singing it from my Guru Devi. He sang this one, and also Smaratu Manomama Niravadi Radham. And we're going to include both these songs in the songbook. Okay, 1 second. Just okay, so let me just go into my room so I can get the mridanga.
Oh, just most wonderful presentation, Prabhu. Thank you so much. But Rini has a question.
Okay.
In several of the writings, I don't think they can hear me.
Oh, the volume was down.
Oh.
My God.
Hare Krishna?
Hare Krishna, I can hear.
Oh, good. In several of the writings by Prabodhānanda, he's a manjari, but he never has a name as a manjari. Does he have a manjari form? He's the Saki, but can you be a Saki and be a manjari?
as far as I understand, the Sakhis, they also see themselves as maidservants, right? They give what's the word I'm looking for? They give preference. They defer to Radhaji, and want Radhaji to meet with Krishna, even though they are Yuteshwaris in their own right in that status. They see themselves as servants. So especially in this, when he's in the sadhak mood and then moving into that transition into his siddha form, those moods of devotion, of servitude, of dasya, that transition from dasya into sakya madhur, that would be my speculative explanation for that.
But he's actually participating as a manjari and behaving in ways that a Sakhi never does. But there's never
idea of how the Sakhis really behave, because in the Padhatis of Dhyanchandra Goswami, it's very clearly said that every Sakhi has a seva. Every Sakhi, one Sakhi has a Chandan seva, one Sakhi has a Chamar seva, so they're all doing seva. And then in the songs of Narottam Das Thakur, he prays to do seva under the guidance of the Sakhis. Means the Sakhis are teaching, they're doing the seva and teaching the seva. So, and I believe there's proper, more detailed explanation of this somewhere, probably in Ujjvala Nilamani, of what their actual role and mood is.
We learned from Gurudev Sri Narayana Maharaj that manjaris are like, and I've read it, but I can't quote it, that they are allowed actually in the most intimate situations. And that's why the painting, you can see through the peak hole in Radharasa Vanidi, he's watching, the scene on the Kunja through a peak hole. And they're allowed to, even in the most intimate pastimes of the divine couple, to do services while that's going on. Whereas I heard from Gurudev that Sakhis, even Lalita, are not allowed to in certain situations. So, and then I remember that, isn't it in the writings of Raghunath Das, he cries, he's crying, he does not want to. Radharani is offering him Sakhi post, and he's totally rejecting it, crying. And I said, okay, you remain as such.
There's a beautiful description by Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur saying that it is not enough for us just to live on the banks of Radhakund. No, we actually have to bathe our souls. And he himself never bathed in Radhakund, but he's saying we have to bathe in Radhakund. We have to bathe our souls in, the jiva must become fully imbued with Swarup Shakti, right? And but to approach that Radhakund, we have to, because it's surrounded by the groves of the Sakhis. So we are bound to pass through or take the guidance of the Sakhis. According to our mood, we will end up taking the shelter or the guidance of one Sakhi or another to enter that Radhakund. And they are her Kaya Vyuha. They're the expansions of those 8 moods of the Nayika, right? So they're very intimate. They're non-different from Radhika. But just as Baladev Prabhu is non-different from Krishna, but still considers himself a servant, these Sakhis non-different from Radhika, but they serve Radhika in their mood.
And the beauty expansions the manjaris.
Yeah.
Can I ask one question? That there's one place called Champahati. In there you have Vaninath Vipra deities. So Vaninath Vipra was Tunga Vidya Sakhi. Is it true? Well, some say she's Champaklata, but some say that she was Tunga Vidya Sakhi.
Yeah, there's These things are very common. Even if you read the text of Gaur Ganadesh Dipika, Kavi Karnapur will say, oh, this one personality is, I say he is this personality, but others say he is that. Even the most famous example is Sarup Damodar. So we generally understand that he is Lalita. And this is from Dhyan Chandra Goswami's Paddhati. But actually, Kavi Karnapur, who we follow on many other cases, Kavi Karnapur says that he's actually incarnation of Vishaka. So then we come to the idea that he's a combination, that these personalities are merging and mixing in different forms. And it's very common for the associates of Gaur Sundar to be combinations of two different personalities in one.
Okay.
This,
Thank you so much. So there is a possibility that she is Tunga Vidyasakhi.
And it's like also according to the mood that the devotee is seeing. And then this goes very deep into, our idea of identity in this world is very limited. One person, one consciousness per body. But, there's many examples in Krishna's pastimes of how like Drone and Dara were inhabiting the bodies of Nanda Baba and Yashoda. So Nanda Baba and Yashoda actually allowed Drone and Dara to be like passengers in their body, to learn how to serve. They wanted to be Krishna's parents. So Krishna and his associates are so merciful, they actually allow them to be like a backseat passenger in the Leela and learn how to be the mother or father, So these things are very advanced conceptions of identity and whatnot.
Thank you.
All right, so now we will sing this kirtan. I've never sung it before. This is my first time ever, and I didn't even practice it, so I probably will mess up. It's a bit long, though, so I think it's 11 verses, and so I think maybe we can sing it together. Of course, with your mics off, because the Zoom, what do you call it? Anyways, just going to stop talking. Okay, so this is a translation from the Rays of the Harmonist. Maybe I'll read the translation first, just so that we know what we're singing, and then we can sing through it. Okay. So, Vasatu Manomama Madana Gopali. And there's a very nice recording of Hare Krishna Prabhu singing this in front of my Gurudev. He sings this song and also the next song, Smaratu Manomama Niravadi Radham, in front of my Gurudev. So, may my mind dwell on that enchanting cowherd boy who relishes the ras of Radha's sublime love, which extends to the highest limit of ever-new playful amorous pastimes. May my mind dwell upon his mass of curling locks, which is fully decorated with a crown of the tail feathers of an intoxicated peacock. O minds, contemplate on him. On account of hearing the vibration emanating from his mouth and through his bamboo flute, the multitude of young girls whose exquisite beauty is ever new and infinitely variegated, abandon all fear of social chastisement and chase after him. And actually, I think here, Mukharita Venu, I think it's also saying that the Venu is Mukharita. Like the Venu itself is just like, what is it, very talkative? I don't know. I'll have to, need to work on that. Okay. May my mind dwell on him as he's situated in his three curved bending form at the base of a wish-fulfilling tree, that is Vangshivat, by the brilliant sandbanks of the Yamuna, which attends to him with her gently murmuring waters. O mind, contemplate the soft and charming yellow silken dhoti around his waist, which is enhanced by a girdle of tiny bells that ring sweetly. May my mind dwell upon that beautiful youth whose luster steals the glories of the thunderclouds of the rainy season, and whose lips become sweeter and more enchanting as they vibrate upon the murali. O minds, contemplate that person who, like a chakora bird, is thirsty to drink the rays of the bewildering and lustrous moon-like face of the young daughter of Vrishabhanu Mahārāja. May my mind contemplate the beauty of his ankle bells, bangles, and bejeweled makar-shaped earrings, as well as his necklace of gunja berries. O my mind, dwell upon he who invokes greed within the hearts of the Rasik milkmaids of Raj through his lovely glances and gentle sweet smiles. May my mind dwell upon he who wears around his neck a swaying garland of forest flowers that charms the intoxicated humming bees. O mind, contemplate his broad and mighty arms, which are massaged with scented oil and duly become beautifully covered with symptoms of ecstasy. O my mind, dwell on his nose, which is adorned with a pearl ornament inlaid in gold. Dwell upon his gracefully curling locks and his brilliant, bejeweled tilak. Dear mind, contemplate his charming face, which resembles a blossoming lotus and which is effulgent like millions of autumn moons. May my mind dwell upon his captivating, ever-fresh, extremely youthful body, which bends at his neck, waist, and feet. O my mind, contemplate on him who, although very sober, take delights in the battles of Cupid within the ever-newer sheltered forest groves of Vrindavan. O mind, contemplate his lustrous body, which is lavishly anointed with sandalwood pulp mixed with saffron, and which is itself the very essence of fragrance. Dwell upon that form from which the waves of Cupid issue forth, and which is solely constituted of the condensed mellows of the highest bliss. Dear mind, dwell on the effulgence emanating from the jewel-like moons of his toenails, seeing which the assembled multitudes of Cupids become embarrassed. Contemplate this ever-new prince of Raj, who is most adept in enacting astonishing pleasure pastimes. O mind, dwell upon this nectarian form of Madhav, as described by the Rasik Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī, and which is the essence of all ras. Those who are wise delight in it within their hearts and become successful in their goal, whereas fools wander in the cycle of repeated birth and death. What exists for them but temporary illusion? I like that last verse. This song's very convincing. Okay. So, yeah, excuse me if I don't get this melody totally right. I'm just kind of, let's see how it goes. Okay. Vasatu mano mama madana gopale navarati keli vilasa paravadi Radha Suratarasale Vasatu Mano Mama Madana Gopale Madashika Pincha Mukutta Madashika Pincha Mukata Parilanchita Kunchita Kachaniko Kaunchita kacha nikurambe Mukarita veno hatata padhavita Mukarita veno hatatra padhavita Nava nava yuvati kadambe Vasatu mano mama madana gopale Kalita kalinda sutta pulino jvala Kalpa mahiru hamole Akinkini kalara varanjita katitata Komala pita dukole Vasatu mano mama madana gopale Murali manohara madhura taradhara Gana ruchi chora kishore Shri Vrishabhanu kumari mohana Ruchi mukha chandra chakore Vasatu mano mama madana gopale Gunjahara makara mani kundala Kankana nupura shobe mridu madura smita charu vilokana, mridu madura smita charu vilokana, rasika vadukrita lobe, vasatu mano mama madana gopale, mata madhuvrata gunjita ranjita, gala dolita vanamale, gando gando dvartita suvalita sundara, pulakita bahu vishale, vasatu mano mama madana gopale, ujvala ratna tilaka lalita, ujvala ratna tilaka lalita laka, sakanaka muktika nase, sharada koti sudha kirano jvala, shrimukha kamala vikashe, vasatu mano mama madana gopale, kriva kati pada bhangi manohara, navaksu kumara sharire, navasu kumara sharire, vrindavana navakunja grihantara, vrindavana navakunja grihantara, ratirana ranga sudhire, vasatu mano mama madana gopale, parimala sarasa keshara chandana, charchita tarala sarange, paramananda rasaika gana kriti, pravaharananga tarange, vasatu mano mama madana gopale, padanaka chandramani chavilajita, manasija koti samaje, arbhuta keli vilasa visharada, vrajapura navayuva raje, vasatu mano mama madana gopale, rasika sarasvati varnita madhava, rupa sudarasa sare, ramayati sa ramayata sadhu buddha nija hridayam, ramayata sadhu buddha nija hridayam, brahmata mudaki masare, vasatu mano mama madana gopale, vasatu mano mama madana gopale, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Prabodha Sarasvatī, Prabodha Sarasvatī, Prabodha Sarasvatī, Prabodha Sarasvatī, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. I think I got the melody a bit wrong here, but I don't know exactly what it is. Parilanchita, sorry, what is it? Kunchita kachani kurambe. Kunchita kachan. Anyways, I need to learn that better. So hopefully I didn't. Anyways, you can find a beautiful recording of Hare Krishna Prabhu singing it. Maybe I'll share it in our WhatsApp group though.
I really
right.
like Rakeshwar's version of it.
Oh yes, yes. There's also a nice recording of Krishna Prabhu singing it, and you can hear Śrīla Mahārāja in the background of that one. I remember very distinctly. Yeah. Maybe I can share both recordings in our WhatsApp group. All right, Shivas, would you like to do Jai Dhwani?
Sure. And I just, as you're singing, I realized also yesterday was the disappearance of Śrī Sanatana Gosvāmī, and today is disappearance of Prabodhānanda Sarasvatī. Again, they're together.
Yeah. Wow. Another one. Can you share your screen?
Yes.
Whoa, that's very interesting. They're living close together, and Radha and Krishna's pastimes are in the same kunj, and then their titis are right next to each other.
Together, and then they left. Maybe around the same. Maybe like actually one day after each other, like one day. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Kandaravika Giridhari Shri Shri Radha Bino Bihari Radha Ramana Bihari Radha Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Ju Ki Jai. Jai Shri Nitilila Prabhishtam Vishnupad Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Gosvāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai. Jai Nitilila Prabhishtam Vishnupad Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Vāmana Gosvāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai. Jai Nitilila Prabhishtam Vishnupad Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Trivikram Gosvāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai. Nitilila Prabhishtam Vishnupad Shri Srimad Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Gosvāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai. Nitilila Prabhishtam Vishnupad Shri Srimad Bhakti Vallabha Tīrtha Gosvāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai. Jai Nitilila Prabhishtam Vishnupad Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Mahārāja Ki Jai. Nitilila Prabhishtam Vishnupad Shri Srimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshava Gosvāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai. Nitilila Prabhishtam Vishnupad Shri Srimad Bhakti Pramod Puri Gosvāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai. Saparshad Guru Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Śrīla Prabhupāda Ki Jai. Mahabhagavad Pravar Shri Gaur Kishodas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Saptam Gosvāmī Satchidananda Śrīla Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shri Jagnathas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Gauri Vedanta Acharya Shri Baladev Vidya Bhushan Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai. Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhutray Ki Jai. Shri Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Das Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rup Sanatana Bhatt Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhatt Das Raghunath Shara Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Prabodhānanda Sarasvatipāda Ki Jai. Tatiya Shubha Tirubhav Titi Ki Jai. Jai Shri Swarup Damodar Rai Ramananda Rishi Gaur Parshad Brinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai. Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Radha Krishna Gop Gopiko Govardhan Padashmana Kushi Bhajamandal Dham Ki Jai. Jai Shri Bhakti Vigna Vinashankari Shri Nishinga Bhagavan Ki Jai. Bhakta Pravar Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Ju Ki Jai. Charidham Charyacharya Chari Sampradaya Ki Jai. आकर मठरा श्री चैतन्य मठ की जय. श्री केशव जी गौड़िया मठ की जय. श्री रूप सनातन गौड़िया मठ की जय. अन्य अन्य शुद्ध भक्ति प्रचार केंद्र समूह की जय. त्रिभुवन मंगल हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय. हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. समागत ऑनलाइन भक्त वृंद की जय. Shri Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol Vancha Kalpatrubhishya Kripa Sindhuvaiva Chapatitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Dandavat pranams, everybody. So that's our program for today. This is a very special one. I'm very grateful to Shivas. And also Shivas, any time of the year, there's ever any special titi that you have something special that you'd like to read or speak about, or this is always open to you every day of the year you like. And so tomorrow is the, what is it? I think it's the, wait, let me just check. It's a disappearance day or appearance day of, okay, it is the disappearance day of Srila Bhakti Hridaya Bhan Goswami Maharaj, the disappearance day of Srila Bhakti Saurabh Sar Goswami Maharaj. So maybe we could read a little something about them, but then we're going to continue our Bhakti Vinod Kiti Tara program after a long break. Actually, I think I will sing all the songs in in the Vishrambhatmika section. We haven't done that yet, so I'll sing through all the songs. That will be the program tomorrow, 4 songs. And then, we'll continue this Bhakti Vinod Ki Tara program again. So, all right, let's, 1 second. Shoot. Sorry. Anyhow, I somehow messed. Okay, there it is. Okay. Hari Bol, Dandavat Pranams, Shivas Prabhu, Niri Hari Prabhu, Bhavatarini Mataji, Shubhananda Prabhu, Archana Didi, Krishna Mai Didi, Anadi Krishna Prabhu. It must be late for you, Krishna Mai Didi. And then Vidyalalasa Didi, Vrinda Didi, Champak Mataji, and Kishore Prabhu. Wow, a lot of comments on Facebook. Kishore is writing, what did he say? He is teaching as Manjari. He is seeing himself like this as Prabodhananda in Gaur-lila. And as Sadhak group, he is meditating as Manjari. Oh, that's another interesting point. But also, I think what Srivas is mentioning is also a good point, that the Sakis are also serving in ways like that also. So, all right. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one, whenever that is, hopefully tomorrow. Oh, and one more thing. Every evening, I am doing a very simple, it should only take 15 minutes. This is my online program I'm doing, is I'm going through half of the Swaniyam Dwadashakam of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I'm singing half of it every day. So yesterday I did the first half, today I'll do the second half, and also I'll sing 1 song from Sharanagati every day. I'll just keep on moving from. So if anybody wants to join that program, that's at 9 p.m. or maybe 8:30 p.m. I haven't figured out what time would be better, either 8:30 p.m. or 9 p.m. India time. Maybe I'll make a poll in our WhatsApp group, and then, it'll only take 15 minutes if anybody wants to join me in this. The reason I'm doing this online like that is to help me follow through. Otherwise, I don't really do very well with following through with ruts. So, all right, that's all. Hari Bol, Dandavat Pranams. See you next time. Hari Bol. Oh, and everything that we've been discussing, all this, we read this article of Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatipāda Prabhupāda. So this is all going to be, Srivas has translated this, and now they're working through editing it and everything, and this will be included in the Prabandha Panchakam. So there's going to be a new edition of Prabandha Panchakam, which will be published sometime soon. So everybody can get that when it comes out. This is kind of like a little preview. All right. Hari Bol.